The whisper of power. The council chamber was silent, a silence so heavy it seemed to press against the skin. The alien leaders of many worlds sat on high seats of silver and crystal, their eyes glowing with arrogance, their voices sharp with pride. They ruled star systems, they commanded fleets beyond number, and they believed no force could ever challenge their might. But at the far end of the chamber, the elders rose. Their robes were simple, their movements slow, but their words carried a weight that chilled the air. "You believe you are untouchable," the oldest elder said, his voice steady and cold. "Yet there is a power rising, a power you refuse to see." The council laughed, harsh and cruel. "Humans," one of the lords spat. "A primitive species from a forgotten planet. They have no fleets, no empire, no legacy. They are nothing." The elder's eyes narrowed. He lifted a hand and summoned ancient records. Light shimmered across the chamber, forming images in the air, images of battles, wars, and victories. There were human soldiers, bleeding but unbroken. There were human ships, battered yet still advancing through fire. There were human voices shouting together, never surrendering, never bowing. "These are not myths," the elder whispered. "We kept these records hidden, waiting for this moment. Humanity has faced horrors greater than any of you can imagine, and they have survived. They do not yield. They do not break." For a moment, the chamber grew still. A cold unease spread across some faces, but pride smothered it quickly. One counselor sneered. "Tricks and lies. You dare to insult us with such fantasy. We hold the power of the stars. They are ants, nothing more." But the images continued to flow. A field of war, alien war machines towering over human lines. Humans fought anyway. They fought with broken weapons. They fought with their hands. They fought with fire in their eyes. The machines fell one after another, not because humans were stronger, but because they refused to stop. The elder's voice rose, trembling with urgency. "This is the strength. You do not understand. They fight not for conquest, not for greed. They fight for each other. They fight for survival. They fight with a fire you have never faced. And that fire is coming for you." Laughter broke out again, cruel and dismissive. "Old fool," the High Chancellor mocked. "Your fear has rotted your mind. No army can stand against us. No species dares to challenge the council, least of all these humans you worship." But one of the younger counselors leaned forward, unease flickering in his eyes. "If this is true," he asked quietly, "why keep it hidden until now? Why wait until the council has declared humanity irrelevant?" The elder's voice dropped, low and cold. "Because now they know you are watching them. They know you are coming. And when humanity is aware of danger, when their backs are against the wall, they do not run. They rise." The council chamber shuddered. The lights trembled as if the walls themselves felt the words. Some counselors shifted uncomfortably, others tightened their jaws, but still they denied. Their pride was a shield too thick to crack in one day. The elders exchanged glances, sadness in their eyes. They had seen this arrogance before, in other empires, in other ages. All of them had fallen, and all for the same reason. They refused to believe in the impossible until it crushed them. The High Chancellor slammed his staff against the ground. "Enough!" he roared. "Your whispers will not shake us. Your warnings mean nothing. This council will never bow to a dying species." The fire elder did not argue. He only looked at them, his ancient eyes shining with sorrow and certainty. "Then remember this moment. Remember it when the fire comes, when your fleets crumble, when your worlds burn. For you were warned, and you chose pride over truth." The chamber fell silent. Once more, a silence that echoed with dread, though none would admit it. Outside the chamber, in the cold void of space, long-range scanners stirred to life. Far, far away, beyond the borders of council space, something massive was moving. At first the readings were faint, like whispers in the dark. But then the signals grew stronger, clearer, undeniable. A fleet was on the move. It carried the mark of a world the Council had dismissed, a name they had mocked. The whispers became truth. Humanity was coming. The warning ignored. The distress call echoed through the council chamber, sharp and urgent. Its voice carried fear, the kind of fear no soldier dared to admit. Unknown vessels sighted on the border. They move with speed beyond calculation. They carry human markings. The council erupted. Voices overlapped in panic, pride, and denial. Some shouted for fleets to be mobilized. Others demanded silence. The High Chancellor rose with a heavy scowl, his staff striking the floor. Lies, he thundered. Fabrications of weak border guards. Humanity does not have such fleets. They cannot. But the elders did not move. They stood calm, though their eyes carried a sorrowful truth. You may deny their strength, one elder said, but you cannot deny the reports. Humanity is here, and they are not the prey you imagine. They are the hunters now. The younger counselor who had spoken before leaned forward again. His voice was quiet but sharp. Why do we continue to mock when the signs grow louder? The images, the battles, the warnings, and now this call. Are we blind or are we proud? The High Chancellor's jaw tightened. We are rulers of the stars. We will not bow to phantoms. Send scouts, destroy their lies, show these border fools what true power looks like. Fleets were ordered, swift and arrogant. Dozens of sleek ships surged from the docks, shining with polished metal, weapons charged with energy that had humbled. Countless species. They moved with confidence, carrying the pride of a council that believed itself unbreakable. But in the chamber, the elders whispered to one another. Their voices low. They still do not understand. They cannot see the truth until it crushes them. The records were opened once more. The council was forced to watch. Flickering images revealed humans facing extinction in ages past. Empires. Greater than the council had risen to break them, but humanity endured. They fought in fire and in darkness. They adapted. And in every trial, they grew stronger. The elder raised his voice. You think their weapons are crude, their fleets small, but you fail to see the fire within them. Humanity thrives in desperation. Every time they are cornered, they rise higher than before. They do not conquer for greed, they fight for survival, and that is why you cannot defeat them. Mocking laughter spread again, though weaker than before. You paint them as gods, one counselor sneered, yet they are still only flesh and blood, and flesh burns, ships shatter, empires fall. Yes, the elder whispered. Empires fall, and yours is next, unless you listen. But the council turned away. Their pride deafened them, their arrogance blinded them, and so the fleet sailed without caution. Hours passed, then the first reports arrived. A scout vessel had engaged a human expedition ship near the border. The council expected swift victory. They expected silence from the humans. Instead, they heard screams. The probe's feed filled the chamber. The image was chaotic. One small human vessel against a cruiser 3 times its size, yet the cruiser's shields fell like paper. Human. Weapons cut with precision. Their maneuvers were unpredictable, reckless, yet effective. The council watched as their cruiser was torn apart piece by piece. No, the High Chancellor growled. It is trickery, sabotage, a spy within our fleet. But the recordings did not lie. The humans had fought with cunning and fury. They had adapted mid-battle, turning weakness into strength. The councillors shifted uneasily, pride cracked, but still they clung to it. Send more fleets, one shouted. Crush them before word spreads. Silence their defiance. The elders shook their heads. You do not silence humanity with fear. You awaken them, and once they rise, nothing will stop them. The chamber fell into restless arguments. Some shouted for peace, some for war. Most simply refused to admit the truth, but deep inside, fear was growing. Then the chamber doors burst, open. A soldier staggered in, armor scorched, his face pale with dread. He fell to one knee, gasping. His voice cracked as he spoke. "I saw them. I saw their eyes. They do not fight like us. They do not retreat. They do not fear. They fight as if the universe itself is theirs to claim." Silence consumed the chamber. The elders closed their eyes. They had seen this before. Countless times in hidden histories, humanity was always underestimated, always mocked, until it was too late. The soldier's final words were barely a whisper. "You have no idea what is coming." The chamber trembled, not from the soldier's voice, but from the alarms that suddenly screamed across the station. Red lights painted the walls in warning. Scanners confirmed what no one wanted to hear. A fleet was moving toward council space, larger than any they had predicted, and at its front, the banners of humanity burned bright against the void. First contact shock. The council chamber flickered with the cold light of the probe's transmission. The image was raw, shaky, and filled with chaos. On the screen, a lone human ship darted like a predator through the stars. It was smaller than the council cruiser, its hull scarred and uneven, yet it moved with terrifying speed. The councillors leaned forward, their arrogance struggling against the creeping dread. They had seen battles before. They had crushed rebellions and destroyed countless fleets. But this was different. The human ship fought as though it were alive, twisting, weaving, striking. Where no strike should have been possible, weapons fire lit the void. The cruiser unleashed its full strength, beams that had leveled cities on other worlds. The humans should have burned, but they did not. They turned every weakness into a weapon. Their shields faltered, yet they used the flickering gaps to bait attacks, pulling the larger vessel into traps again and again. Gasps filled the chamber when the cruiser's engines exploded. The massive warship shuddered, flames bursting from its side. A fleet killer brought down by a ship no larger than a freighter. The image cut to static as the probe's signal died. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. The High Chancellor slammed his staff, his voice cracking with anger. "Sabotage! Treachery! Nothing more!" he shouted. "Our fleets are unmatched. Our weapons are perfect. Humanity cannot do this." But the younger counselor whispered, his eyes wide. "I saw it. They fought with no fear, as if death itself could not touch them." The elders spoke softly, their voices almost mournful. "You are watching the truth. Humanity does not fight like others. They fight with mind, with spirit, with unity. They fight as though every battle is their last, and that makes them stronger than any empire." Still, denial clung to the council. Pride was their shield, and fear their hidden poison. More fleets were ordered, more ships hurled into the void. Each would prove, they told themselves, that humans were nothing but a spark to be crushed. But the reports came back the same. Cruiser after cruiser lost, patrols vanishing into silence, survivors whispering words that chilled even hardened warriors. They do not stop. They do not retreat. Their eyes burn with fire. One scarred officer was brought before the council. His armor was shattered, his voice hoarse from smoke. He knelt before the chamber, trembling as he recalled the battle. "We had them surrounded," he rasped. "Our fleet outnumbered theirs 5-1. We fired everything. They should have died. They should have fallen." The council leaned in, desperate for an excuse. The officer's voice broke as he continued, "But they did not die. They adapted. They moved faster, smarter. Every time we thought we had them, they were already one step ahead. It was as if they could feel our thoughts before we spoke them." He lifted his gaze, haunted and hollow. "You do not understand. They fight not for conquest, not for empire. They fight for each other. They fight for survival, and that makes them unstoppable." The chamber erupted with shouts. Some accused the officer of cowardice. Others demanded his execution for spreading fear, but the elders only bowed their heads. They had seen this same story across the ages, prideful empires dismissing the warnings until the fire consumed them. Then, without warning, the chamber lights dimmed. The screens lit again, this time not from a probe, but from a captured transmission. A human soldier appeared, his face scarred, his eyes hard and unyielding. He spoke in a language the council did not fully understand, yet the meaning cut through the walls of pride. "You think us weak," his voice growled. "You think us prey, but we are humanity. We endure, we rise, and when we come, no chains, no walls, no fleets will stand against us." The message ended. The silence that followed was colder than any void. The High Chancellor shook with fury. "Propaganda," he spat. "Their words are nothing. Their victories are illusions." But deep inside, even he could not deny the trembling of his hands. The younger counselor whispered again, his voice trembling. "What if it is not illusion? What if they are exactly what the elders claim? A storm that cannot be stopped." The elders raised their heads, their voices rose above the chaos. "You are already too late. Humanity has awakened. They have seen your arrogance, and now they will show you what it means to fight without fear." Suddenly, alarms blared once more. Red light washed the chamber walls. The floor trembled beneath their feet. Technicians shouted over the noise. "Unidentified fleet detected, moving at impossible speed. They are breaching outer defenses." The council froze. Their pride crumbled, and for the first time they felt true fear. The screen filled with the image of ships, human ships, advancing in formation, not massive in size, not shining with luxury, but scarred, strong and unstoppable. They carried the mark of a species that refused to break, and at the very front, a single message pulsed across the scanners, a whisper that struck harder than any weapon. "We are here." Humanity's fury unveiled. The first council fleets had been torn apart, but still the rulers refused to believe. They told themselves the losses were tricks of chance, mistakes of captains, flaws in design. Yet deep down, whispers of fear began to spread across the stars. For every cruiser that fell, every world that trembled, one truth became clearer. Humanity was not a myth. Humanity was a storm. In the border systems, enslaved colonies lived in silence and despair. Entire species had bowed to the council for generations, their chains hidden behind laws and polished words. They had given up hope, believing no savior could ever come. But then, out of the darkness, human ships arrived. The first sight was not of weapons, but of light. Human vessels descended over a mining world where alien slaves were beaten and starved. The guards prepared to resist, expecting a war. But what came was something different. The humans broke the gates, freed the workers, and offered them food and water. They did not ask for tribute. They did not demand loyalty. They gave mercy. The freed aliens fell to their knees, not in fear, but in awe. They had never seen conquerors act this way. For centuries, the council had ruled with cold power, punishing weakness, crushing resistance. But humans fought with fury, and yet showed kindness in the same breath. Word spread like wildfire. Colonies whispered of the newcomers, who destroyed fleets but healed the broken, who struck down slavers but raised the fallen. Soon, species long silenced began to stir. Their eyes turned toward the humans, seeing in them something the council could never offer: hope. The elders watched these events unfold. Their warnings had been mocked, yet now their words were truth alive. "This is their strength," one elder said softly. "The strength you mocked, the strength you feared. It is not their weapons alone. It is their hearts. It is the fire that burns when they see injustice. That is what will undo you." The council chamber seethed with rage. Some demanded extermination. Others demanded silence, but cracks were forming. Pride alone could not hide the terror in their voices. The reports were undeniable. Humanity had not only fought, they had inspired. The High Chancellor slammed his staff again. "They are parasites. They twist the weak with false promises. They poison loyalty with lies," he shouted. "We will burn every colony that dares to welcome them." But as he spoke, new transmissions arrived. The counselors turned, faces pale, the screens lit with scenes of chaos. not Council power-crushing rebels. But rebels rising against the Council. They carried no banners of their own. They shouted one word in defiance, a word that echoed across systems: humanity. The Council's fleets moved to retaliate, but each time they struck, humanity was already there. Ships appeared like shadows, striking fast, breaking chains, disappearing into the void. Every battle fueled the legend. Every act of mercy sharpened the fear. A scarred Council commander returned from the front, his armor cracked, his spirit broken. He knelt before the chamber and whispered, "We do not fight soldiers. We fight a storm. They strike with fire, but shield the weak. They are not like us. They cannot be crushed as others were. They fight for something greater." The High Chancellor trembled, his fury masking the dread clawing at his heart. "Then we will drown them in numbers," he hissed. "We will gather every fleet, unleash every weapon. Humanity will break before us." The elders rose, their eyes dark with sorrow. "No," one elder said. "You do not understand. Every fleet you send, every world you burn, will only make them stronger. They will not stop. They will not bow. For every life you take, 10 more will stand beside them." Suddenly, alarms wailed through the chamber again. The walls pulsed with red. Technicians shouted over the chaos. "New fleet detected, entering central sectors. Their numbers are too many to count." The chamber froze. Every councillor turned. Pale, the main screen came alive with the sight of thousands of human ships advancing. They were scarred, patched, and imperfect, but they burned with purpose, and they carried with them allies, newly freed species who had joined their side. For the first time in countless ages, the Council saw their empire trembling. They had built it on fear, but fear was shifting. Fear no longer belonged to the weak, it belonged to them. The elders whispered a final warning. "You called them ants. You called them fragile. Now you will see the truth. Humanity has risen, and nothing you command will stop their fury." The High Chancellor's hands shook as he stared at the screen. His voice, once thunder, now barely a whisper. "Prepare the war fleets. Prepare them all." But as his words faded, the scanners revealed more. Not just a fleet, but an armada. Humanity had brought their full strength to the very heart of Council. Space. And at their head, one message pulsed across every channel, simple, clear, and final. "We are coming for you." The Trial of Fire. The Council fortress world of Valen burned with light. Fleets rose from the docks like a storm of steel. Ships as far as the eye could see filled the skies. Engines roared as warriors prepared for what they called the final purge. They believed their numbers alone would crush humanity. They believed pride would shield them from fear. Inside the war chamber, the High Chancellor stood at the center, his voice echoing like thunder. "They are only flesh. They are ants. Beneath our boots, today we will drown them in fire." His words rumbled across the chamber, but behind the eyes of many councillors lay doubt. The elders stood silent, their faces carved with sorrow. One of them whispered, "You mistake this battle as a test of weapons. It is not. This will be a trial of fire, and you are the ones who will burn." The Chancellor ignored them. He raised his staff, calling forth the fleets. Thousands of warships aligned in perfect formation, their weapons humming with deadly light. It was the greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen, an ocean of power stretching across the stars. But beyond the edge of sight, humanity waited. Their ships were smaller, fewer, scarred from endless wars. Yet inside them burned a fire the Council could not measure. In those ships were men and women who had seen their worlds threatened, who had fought for survival since their first steps. Among the stars, they had come not only to fight, but to prove. The first clash came without warning. Council sensors lit up with alarms. Human ships surged forward, weaving through the void with reckless precision. Instead of forming lines, they scattered like shadows, striking where no commander expected. Council warships unleashed their fury. Beams tore across space. Missiles split the darkness. But the humans adapted again and again. Each hit they took only hardened their resolve. Each fallen ship became bait for a counterattack. A commander shouted over the council comms. They are inside our lines. They move too fast. We cannot lock onto them. Panic spread as formations collapsed. The carefully crafted pride of the council shattered in moments. On the ground, enslaved colonies rose at the sight of the battle. They saw council fleets failing, and they cheered for the humans. The fire of rebellion spread faster than any weapon. Chains broke, banners fell, and voices cried for freedom. Inside the chamber, the High Chancellor roared, "Hold the lines. They cannot last forever. Break them with numbers." But his words rang. Hollow reports poured in, squadrons destroyed, command ships falling silent, fleets cut apart. The elders raised their heads, their voices soft but steady. "This is what we warned you of. Humanity does not break. Humanity does not bow. They fight with unity you cannot understand. You fight for pride. They fight for each other. That is why you fall, council fleets." Tried to regroup, but every attempt met with disaster. Human ships predicted their movements, struck before orders could even spread. It was as if the humans knew their minds. As if every plan had already been written and torn apart, a captain screamed across the council channels. "They do not fear death. They rammed their own ship into ours and still kept firing. They fight like they are already immortal." His words chilled every soul who heard them. The council's greatest dreadnought, a vessel the size of a moon, moved into the fight. Its weapons could split planets. Its shields had never fallen. The chamber erupted in cheers when it entered the field. "Now they will see true power," the Chancellor declared, but the cheers died quickly. On the screens, a cluster of human ships swarmed the dreadnought. Their weapons cut through the shields like knives in silk. They struck weak points no enemy had ever known. And then, in a blaze of fire, the dreadnought split in two. The chamber fell silent. Not a single word, not a single laugh, only fear remained. The elders whispered, "The trial of fire is not for them, it is for you. Humanity has already been tempered in flame. It is your turn now." The Chancellor's hands shook as he gripped his staff, his face pale beneath his fury. "Impossible," he muttered. "They cannot. They must not." But the alarms did not stop. Every moment, another fleet fell. Every moment, another world rose in rebellion. The Council's empire, built on centuries of fear, was crumbling in days. The final report that night was simple, brutal, and undeniable. Our fleets are gone. Our borders breached. Humanity advances toward the core. The Chancellor collapsed into his seat. Pride shattered. His councillors whispered in terror. Some demanded surrender. Others screamed for total annihilation. But no one could deny the truth anymore. The elders spoke with a final warning, their voices echoing like prophecy. "You thought you were eternal. You thought no storm could reach you. But you have met humanity, and in their fire, you are nothing." Outside, the scanners filled with light. More human ships appeared, countless. Allies rising beside them. The void itself seemed to tremble. The council stared in horror as the unstoppable tide drew closer, and at the head of the fleet, a single human message flashed once more. This is only the beginning. Collapse of denial. The council chamber was no longer a place of order. It had become a hall of chaos. The once proud rulers shouted over each other, their voices dripping. With panic, some demanded surrender, some demanded vengeance. Others simply trembled in silence. The walls that once echoed with arrogance now shook with fear. Reports flooded in every hour. Each one was worse than the last. Entire fleets lost, colonies rebelling, worlds falling out of council control. Survivors staggered back with broken ships and haunted eyes. Their words cut deeper than any weapon. "They do not fear us," one captain whispered, his voice shaking. They fight as if the universe itself belongs to them. Every strike, every move, every sacrifice, they do it together, and we cannot break them. Another survivor, an old commander with scars burned into his armor, knelt before the council. His voice was hoarse, heavy with shame. Our dreadnought is gone, destroyed by ships we mocked. I saw them swarm like fire. I saw their faces. They were not afraid. They were resolute. They were determined. And when they looked at us, I knew we were already defeated. The High Chancellor tried to rise, his staff trembling in his hand. Lies, he growled. You are cowards. Humanity cannot be so strong. They are still only flesh and blood. They must be stopped. But his words rang hollow. No one believed him anymore. Pride had shattered. The room split into factions. Some screamed for peace, their voices desperate. Others shouted for final war, too blinded by rage to see the truth. The elders stood, their eyes filled with sorrow, their voices calm but unyielding. This is the collapse of your denial. For too long you have hidden behind arrogance. Humanity does not rise because of strength alone. They rise because they fight for one another. For them, survival is not just power, it is unity, and no empire can withstand it. The Chancellor roared. Silence. You would see us kneel before primitives. You would see the council bow. His voice cracked, his fury no longer strength but desperation. But before he could continue, the chamber doors burst open. A soldier stumbled in. His armor still smoking from battle. His face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. He fell to one knee, gasping for air. They are here, he choked out. Not just their ships, not just their weapons. They sent an envoy. A human stands at our gates. The chamber froze. Every councillor turned pale. A human, alive here within reach of the council. The thought was unthinkable, and yet it was true. The guards dragged the envoy forward. He was tall, scarred, his uniform plain, but his presence sharp as a blade. His eyes burned with fire, but his voice was steady, calm, even merciful. You call yourselves rulers, he said, his words echoing across the chamber. You built your empire on chains. You thought fear would last forever, but fear has shifted. It no longer belongs to the weak. It belongs to you. The councillors stared, silent and trembling. The envoy continued. Humanity does not seek conquest. We do not crave thrones or tribute. We came because you struck at us. You threatened our people. You enslaved others, and humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity answers. The Chancellor tried to rise again, his face twisted. With hate, you dare lecture us in our own hall. You dare threaten the council. But the human's voice grew stronger. No, I offer you a choice. End the chains, end the arrogance, admit the truth, stand beside us, or be swept away. Murmurs filled the chamber. Councillors shifted, torn between rage and despair. For the first time they were faced not with threats of destruction, but with an offer of peace. One councillor whispered, They could have burned us already, yet they send words instead of fire. Another said, Perhaps the elders were right. Perhaps strength is not only in weapons. The elders nodded. This is what we told you. They fight fiercely, but they are not tyrants. They offer a hand even to those who scorn them. That is their strength, and that is your doom. The Chancellor's face turned pale. His voice trembled. We cannot bow. His pride still clung to him. Even as his empire crumbled, the human envoy's eyes narrowed. Then know this. Our fleets wait beyond your stars. They do not hunger for blood, but they will fight if you force them. You have one chance. Left to choose wisely, the chamber fell silent again. But this silence was not pride. It was fear. It was uncertainty. It was the sound of an empire standing at the edge of its end. Alarms broke the silence, louder than before. Technicians screamed. Across the floor. Massive fleet detected, entering inner sectors. They have surrounded the core. The screens lit up, filling the chamber with the sight of endless human ships. They burned like a second sunrise, stretching across the void. and with them came banners of dozens of freed species. All marching under one symbol, one cause, one fire, the councillors looked on in terror, knowing their words no longer mattered. The elders whispered, their voices like prophecy. The time has come. Humanity stands at your door. Your denial is over. The envoy raised his hand. A signal pulsed from his wrist. And then, across the chamber screens, one final message appeared. Decide now. The final revelation. The chamber was silent, the kind of silence that could crush a soul. On the screens, human fleets burned like suns, stretching across the void. The council, once rulers of thousands of worlds, sat frozen, their pride shattered, their voices gone. The human envoy stood tall, his eyes sharp as steel. He repeated, his words with calm certainty, "Decide now." The High Chancellor's hands trembled on his staff, his face pale, his voice weak. We cannot bow. The council does not yield." His words cracked. They carried no power, only fear. The younger councillors whispered among themselves. Their voices shook. "If we resist, we die. If we fight, we burn. Perhaps we must." "Listen," others hissed in anger. "Never. We are eternal. We are the stars. We cannot kneel to flesh and blood." The elders rose, their voices clear, louder than the chaos. "You still do not understand. Humanity does not demand kneeling. They do not seek thrones or crowns. They seek truth. They seek unity. You are not asked to bow. You are asked to survive." The envoy stepped forward. The guards shifted uneasily, but none dared to move. "Your empire is built on chains. Humanity breaks chains. Your power is built on fear. Humanity destroys fear. You have one chance to stand beside us, or you will fall alone." The words struck like fire. The councillors turned pale. Their empire had ruled with terror for ages, but now terror belonged to them. Suddenly, the alarms howled again. The chamber shook with thunder, screens filled with images, council warships trying one last desperate strike. They hurled themselves at the human armada, hoping pride could carry them through, but humanity did not flinch. Their fleets shifted with perfect coordination. They absorbed the blows, adapted, and struck back. In moments, the council's last armada was in flames. Their strongest captains cried out as their ships shattered. Their final hope turned to ash. The chamber echoed with screams. Councillors collapsed in despair. Pride was gone. Denial was gone. Only fear remained. The elders closed their eyes, their voices heavy with sorrow. "It is over. The age of arrogance is ended. Humanity has risen, and nothing will turn them back." The envoy raised his hand. A signal pulsed. The fleets outside slowed. They did not press the final strike. They did not rain destruction on the core worlds. They waited. The councillors looked on in shock. "Why do they stop?" one whispered. "They could end us now." Another cried. The envoy's voice was steady. "Because we are not you. We do not kill for pride. We do not burn for vanity. We give you mercy, even now, even after all you have done. But this mercy will not come again." A hush fell over the chamber. The words cut deeper than any blade. Humanity had done what no empire before had done. They had destroyed the council's fleets, surrounded their worlds, and yet held their fire. It was not weakness. It was strength beyond comprehension. The younger councillor fell to his knees, his voice trembling. "We mocked them. We enslaved others. We called them ants. And yet they stand above us." The elders nodded. "This is the final revelation. You thought strength was in numbers, in ships, in fear. But true strength is in unity, in sacrifice, in mercy. Humanity carries all of these. That is why they rise. That is why you fall." The High Chancellor's staff slipped from his grasp. It struck the floor with a hollow clang. His shoulders sagged. His voice broke. Then the council is finished. The envoy looked at him, calm and unyielding. "No, The council is not finished, but it will never be the same. You will rebuild, not as masters, but as equals. The galaxy has no need for tyrants. It needs unity. It needs strength. Together, humanity offers you that chance. The chamber trembled with uncertainty. Some councillors wept, others bowed their heads. Pride had been stripped away, and for the first time, they saw themselves as they truly were. Not gods, not rulers, but fragile beings clinging to power. The screens outside showed the armada waiting. Thousands of human ships holding steady, dozens of freed species standing beside them, banners raised high. They were not slaves, not conquered, but allies. They stood not in chains, but in choice. It was a sight the council could not deny. The galaxy itself had shifted. The elders' warnings had come true. Humanity had risen, and the balance of power had changed forever. The envoy's final words echoed through the chamber. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Stand with us, or be swept away. Humanity does not ask again. The chamber fell silent. The council, broken and humbled, had no more lies to speak, no more pride to wield. They looked at the elders, at the envoy, at the screens filled with fire and light, and they knew the age of fear was over. The age of humanity had begun.